Hello friends, myself Professor Vinod Pillai. Welcome to C++ programming session. In today's session we'll be learning about constructors and destructors. We'll be seeing what is constructor, the need of constructor, or what are the advantages we are generally getting by using constructor in our class. And finally, understanding these two concepts, we'll be start developing a constructor in a class. Then we'll see the importance of destructor and why we need destructor in a class. And finally, we'll see how to code destructor in a class. First and foremost, what is constructor? Constructor is a special type of a function. Yes, it is a special type of method. It is declared inside the class, same as method. So what is the difference between a constructor and a method? First and foremost, suppose we have a class called student. As I've said in my definition, constructor is a special type of method. So how it is special? Special is because constructor's name is same as class name. So if someone says I want to create a constructor, so it is but obvious it will be its name is same as class name. So my class name is student, so my constructor name will be also be student. Rule number 2, constructor will not have a return type. Okay, fine, it is special, it is something like a method, it will not have a return type. So these all things we understood. So what is the use of constructor? Constructor is used to initialize the object as and when it is being declared. So if you want to initialize the object as and when it is being declared, you have to use constructor. Okay, let's try to understand. Think about without a constructor. Suppose if someone says integer I as a variable and I can write I equal to 10 in a built-in data type. How can you do with user defined data type? Then I say I will create an object of student and I'll say s1 dot set and I'll pass the value. So it will say it is fine, it is does this task. But in built-in data type we can do something like this, that is we can declare and initialize the object variables as and when it is being created. So if we want to do that concept, we can't do something like this with the help of methods. So here the statement becomes false, that is a user defined data type should act something like a built-in data type. So in built-in data type it is possible that you can declare the variable and initialize it in the same line, but without constructor that is not possible. To get these things done in class we have to use constructor. So we can say with the help of constructor we can initialize the object as and when it is being declared. Yes, you can do the same task with the help of method, that is initialization, but not at the time of declaration. You can initialize the object at the second line, that is as I've shown here. That is I've created student object and then the next line I've initialized it. That is possible. Yes, it is true constructor will also do the same task, but it helps us to do the same task as and when the class is being created. So object is being created, the next once the object is being created, and if you want to initialize the object as and when it is being created, then with the help of constructor we can do it. That is not been possible with the help of methods. So internally the logic of a constructor and a method will be same, it will not have any difference. Okay, and it is as simply we can say constructor is nothing but a simple type of method only. It is special because its class name is same and it will not have a return type. If you want to have a return type and if you want to do it, the initialization is not compulsory at the time of object creation, then you should go for a method. Okay, second important point, you should know this also, that each and every class has constructor. So you create any constructor or not, each and every class has a constructor default. Okay, if you don't create any constructor in a class like this, the one I'm having student, then the system gives you default constructor. Okay, but if as and when you create a constructor, system will not provide you any constructor. So it is up to you whether you want to have a constructor. If you declare any single constructor in a class, system will not provide a constructor to the you. Okay, so there are two types of constructor. One is default, the system provided constructor. It is only provided if suppose that you are not creating any constructor. If you create any constructor, then it is your responsibility to create all the constructor, then the system constructor will not be available. So rule number 1, constructor is used to initialize the object as and when it is being created. Rule number 2, constructor will not have a return type. Rule number 3, constructor is being automatically be called. Yes, implicit calling, explicit calling is available, but generally constructor is automatically being called as and when object is being created. So it is the practice that you have to create constructor in the public section. Okay, now if you know methods and if you have not seen my previous videos, okay, you can have a look at it where I've explained function overloading, inline function, function with default arguments and all those things. The same happens with constructor, because constructor is again a a special type of function only. So whatever function can do, it is all done by constructor, except that it can't have a return type. Okay, so let's see the examples. We have understood that what is constructor, what is the need of constructor, and let's see how we can create it. I've created a simple example called student. I'm having two variables, so I'm having a public section. Now this is called a user defined default constructor. If someone asks you what is default constructor, it is a special type of constructor which does not have any arguments. Now this constructor can be provided by system only in the condition if your class is not having a single constructor. If your class is not having any constructor, then also system will provide you a constructor without any argument, that is called system given default constructor. But as and when you create any constructor in your class and it is not having any arguments, then also it is called constructor, that to a default constructor, but it is a user defined default constructor. Okay, I hope so you have cleared in that case. It is always advisable to create a default constructor in the class. You will see why it is being there. It may, if you don't do it, it may create a problems to you. Yes, it is possible. The constructor overloading, a class can have more than one constructors. Only thing is number of arguments, types of arguments or sequence of arguments should be different. Third thing, yes, it is possible like methods that constructors logic can be outside the class also. Okay, like this constructor, I'm initializing default value as id as 0 and mark as 0, and it is having two arguments. Okay, so its logic is not there, it will be outside the class also. Let's see how outside the class. No return type, so same as method. What we do in method, we write first return type, then class name, scope resolution, method name. So here no return type, class name is student, scope resolution, again constructor name is student, and then all is same. Okay, inside the constructor's logic will be same as method only, so there is no difference. If you know method, it will automatically work it out. Now comes how to call it. Student s1, if I say, if I don't pass any arguments, then it will automatically call the default constructor in that sign id as 0 and mark as 0. So now I call display. If normal scenario, if there is no constructor, it will have garbage value, but in this scenario it will have the default value 0 0. If I write student s2 as 10 20, then the constructor will be called with two arguments. 10 will be passed to tid and 20 will be passed to t marks, and similarly id and marks will be assigned. S3 is not having any values, then a default constructor will be called. Okay, and similarly when I say s2.display, it will be called accordingly. I hope so you understood what I want to say. So yes, it is possible to define the constructor inside the class also. It is possible to define constructor outside the class also. Then one more thing I want to say, if you define the constructors method inside the class, it will automatically become an inline constructor. Yes, again it is possible to assign default values also, same as methods. So I think so if you know methods, you know constructors basically. So I will be more concentrating on new concepts of constructors only. Okay, still if you have queries, you can ask me on, or you can comment me on my videos. Now comes how we have understood how to create constructors and all. Let's understand what is destruct and what is the need of destructor. Okay, destructor is needed because as and when, suppose let's understand what is the need. If I declare a variable I inside a curly braces or inside a scope, then what happens is I is having scope and lifetime inside this curly braces only. Okay, it will automatically deleted as and when the I comes out of the scope. I goes out of the scope, the I will be deleted from the memory. Okay, that is automatically done by system, but this does not happens if I create a user defined object here. Obj is an object which is been having a scope. Okay, yes, obj can't be accessed outside, but it will not be destroyed. Okay, I know it is not being accessed, then it is not used. Okay, so I want it should automatically be destroyed also. So destructor comes into picture there. With the help of destructor, we can tell compiler this, yes, any object of this class, if it goes out of the scope, you should delete that object automatically. That is, destructor is used to free the memory space that is being occupied by that particular object as and when it goes out of the scope. Okay, so how is destructor done? Destructor also same as constructor, but only two differences. One, destructor will not have any argument also. Like constructors, it will not have any return type. Its name is same as class name, but it will not even have a arguments. As it is not having arguments, then it will not have overloading concept. As it is not having an argument, it will not have default values also. Only thing is you have to remember is destructor's name will have a tilde sign in front of it. Okay, because as as to differentiate between this thing, the only thing is destructor will have tilde sign in front of its name. Okay, that's the only difference. What will come in the logic? Nothing is required, because destructor is just specifying a statement to the class that any object of this class compiler should delete as and when that object of that class goes out of the scope. So this is an indication signs to the compiler. It is not required to have any code, but this code is just written to show you that destructor is being called as and when it goes out of the scope. So to show this example, I have created student s1. It is constructor is called, and its default value is 0 0. s1 dot display student s2, which will be assigned as 10 and 20, and s3 default value 0 and 0 will be called. s2 dot display is being called, so 10 and 20 will be displayed. You should understand that this s2 and s3's lifetime is still this thing only, this curly braces. So as and when I get out of this curly braces, automatically destructor will be called for s2 and s3. So 2 time destructor's code should be printed, and then came here, and you should remember s1 also goes out of the scope once it gets out of main. So 1 time destructor for that also should be called. Let's see what's the output coming. So I compile it, I clear it. So you can see 0 0 is for s1, display is being called, its default value is assigned. 10 and 20 is for s2 display. Then destructor is called because it goes out of the scope. Then again destructor is being called for s3. Okay, then came here, that is this text is came here, then it goes out of the scope for s1. So this way we can say that destructor is being called and the object is destroyed by the compiler. So I hope so you have understood what I able to teach you that what is constructor, what is the advantage of constructor. We have seen that the same as method we can do with constructor, we can assign arguments, we can do overloading, we can have inline, we can have default values, but constructor gives an advantage, that is we can initialize the object as and when it is being created, which is not possible with the help of methods. Then we have seen how to create it, how to have default values and all those things. We have seen what is destructor, what is need of it, that is as and when the object goes out of the scope of it, it should automatically be deleted by the compiler. That is done with the help of destructor, that is an indication sign. We have seen that destructor will not have any arguments, will not be overloaded, will not have return type, its name is same as class name, only thing is a tilde sign should be in front of the destructor's name. Okay, and we finally seen how destructor's code should be done. We don't need to call destructor, it is automatically being called. Okay, I hope so I've cleared almost all the topics. If you have still any queries, you can email me or you can write the comments. If you like this video, please subscribe my video, and if you like it, if you feel so this should be shared, please share with your friends. Thank you and have a nice day.